That's did not make me feel good. It's scary and it's...
Take your time.
That's intimidating.
Did you think you were assisting your mom and your sister in luring someone to their death?
No.
Oh, what an awful situation this is. We're in Utah for the family murder plot case. The defendant is Kevin Ellis. This guy's accused of conspiring with his mom and one of his sisters to murder his brother-in-law, Matthew Restelli. Prosecutors say that the family was in on a plot together to lure Matthew Restelli to the Utah home where they ambushed him and then staged the scene to make it look like they killed him in self-defense. That's the allegation. Restelli is the deceased and Kevin Ellis is the man on trial, and Ellis is saying that he did shoot in self-defense. We're at the point where we're hearing from some of the other siblings. They are not indicted. They've done nothing wrong, so I want to be very clear on that. We're about to hear from his sister, Rachel Jorgensen.
Can you tell me a little bit about your family? How many siblings do you have?
I'm one of 7 siblings.
And where do you fall in the order of siblings?
I'm third to the youngest.
And how old are you?
I am, 26.
And who's your mom?
Tracey Grist.
And what point did you move out of the Grist household?
Summer of 2020.
And where have you lived out of home since then?
Yes.
Did you ever live in California with your family?
Yes.
How old were you when you moved?
I believe it was around 2010, so I would have been roughly 11 years old.
And who was still in the house when you lived there?
My mom, Tim, myself, Jake, and Rory.
Okay. Did you have a good relationship with the older siblings?
Not until the last 5 to 10 years. I was so young when we moved to Utah. It created a little bit of a relationship disconnect with the 3 oldest who stayed in California.
But do you have a pretty close family now?
I would say so, yes.
What kind of things would you do together?
I would go to my mom's about once a week, maybe once every other week, to hang out with my children and my mom. As Tim had said, we do often try to get together for family meals, more often in the summer for grilling, occasional outings with maybe my mom and the kids, my 2 children, but a lot of home time at her house.
And were you pretty close with your mom?
Yes.
How often would you guys talk?
It was rare that we'd go more than a few days without texting or a phone call.
And which siblings were you closest to?
I would say Tara Lynn Fisher.
How often would you talk to Tara Lynn?
I would say about the same as my mom. It'd be rare to go more than a few days without talking, text, or a phone call.
Were you close with Kate?
Not as close with Tara Lynn. We just naturally didn't tend to call each other or text each other very often.
Did you ever stay at her house or?
Yes, when we would go visit California, we would put an effort to make sure we would go swing by her property.
How often would you visit California?
It would be like every 1 to 3 years, just depending, but not frequent.
Would you stay out there a while, or how long would you stay out?
It wasn't uncommon to do like 5 days to a week.
Did you like to go to any amusement parks or things like that?
Yes, we enjoyed going to Disneyland in Southern California.
Would you go to Disneyland every time you went?
No.
Did you know Matt Restelli?
Yes.
How well did you know him?
I would not say well.
Had you ever been to his house when he was there?
Yes.
Would he come on their vacations with you guys?
Yes, we would see him while we were on vacation, and then he did attend a Disneyland trip with us.
Is that the only time he's ever attended an extended vacation with you guys?
I know he's come to Utah, but as far as like big outings like that, Disneyland was really it.
And how old were you when you first met Matt?
I don't recall. I know I was young. I actually just couldn't tell you the age.
I'm sorry, what?
I could not tell you what age I was when I met Matt.
Younger than 12, maybe?
That's safe to assume, yes.
Were you aware of a nickname for Matt?
Yes.
Okay, do you know why they called him Olaf?
My assumption was that it was just Disney related and it was a popular character between their two children.
And who made the name?
I don't know who made the name. I would assume my mom or Kate.
And how long have you been calling him Olaf?
I don't know when it started. I just remember there was a time where we were suddenly referring to him as that.
Is your mom like Matt?
No.
Would she tell you that?
Yeah, it was clear when we would talk.
Was that from the beginning, or did it something sour at some point?
I'm sure there was, at some point it shifted, but for what I know, it was kind of a forever thing based on my observations.
Let's talk a little bit around June of 2024. A moment.
Okay, we'll have more from the defendant's sister. Remember, this is the unindicted sister, not part of this plot. This has to be really hard for her to be here giving testimony. Remember, mom is awaiting trial. Her other sisters who confessed, gave it all up, said that this plot occurred, admitted to being in on it. That's the sister who was married to the decedent, Matthew Restelli. We'll be right back.
Did an affair lead to double murder?
The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has secured an indictment against Brendan Banfield for the murder of his wife, Christine, and the murder of Mr. Ryan.
Prosecutors allege the defendant planned to run away with the family's au pair. So he killed his wife and another man.
He was saying, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage continues Tuesday morning on Court TV.
We are in Utah for a case that some say is like the Utah Adelsons. It has become somewhat of a family matter. We've got a mom indicted, a sister indicted, and a brother indicted. This is over the death of a man named Matthew Restelli, who was married to the sister, son-in-law to the mom, brother-in-law to the man who's on trial right now, Kevin Ellis. Let's go back in now. We're seeing the cross-examination of his sister, who was not indicted, not part of the plot in question.
Has the state ever in the history of talking to you, working with you, preparing you as a witness, presenting you as a witness, ever gone through those texts they just went through with you in comparison with your call log?
No.
Where they went back and forth, talking about how you were communicating with Carolyn, would like to be a fly on the wall?
No, we never multitasked and reviewed separate documents like that.
It seemed to you like they were insinuated you were in on this?
It did feel like that, yes.
How did that make you feel?
Of course, that's did not make me feel good. It's scary and it's
Take your time.
that's intimidating. Yeah.
Do you think that we were helping your sister and your mother lure someone to their death on the 12th of July?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Did you think you were assisting your mom and your sister in luring someone to their death?
No.
Let's talk about the things that you've done in working with the state up to this point. Being available
Yes.
and giving your information.
Yes.
You've given prior testimony.
Yes.
They met with you recently, and what they called and told you was a trial preparation interview, right?
Yes.
Preparing you for your testimony at this trial.
Yes.
And never did what they just did to make it look like you're a co-conspirator.
Yes.
Now, that history included when the police talked to you, you wanted to answer their questions and give information, right?
Repeat that, please.
When the police, after this happened, you did get police contact, right?
Yes.
And were you afraid? Scary to get the police at your door?
Yes, it is.
But did you want to be cooperative?
Yes.
Have you always been willing to say what you knew?
Yes.
Did you, I think they got a warrant, but you didn't resist them having your telephone, right?
No, and I gave them the passcode to the first attempt they requested it.
They've had all these documents, they just did that to you with today throughout this time. Would you have met with them and gone over everything that's in your phone?
Yes.
They've asked you to come to court, raise your hand, swear an oath, and provide testimony before, right?
Yes.
In fairness, it's not a trial. I just want to be clear that there's been some occasion for evidence to be taken in relation to this awful crime, right?
Yes.
You did that, right?
Yes.
Like I said, you were available to be met with anytime, anywhere, for any reason?
Yes.
By the police?
Yes.
By the prosecutors?
Yes.
By the way, is this all transpired after the shooting? I mean, your mom and Kate were still together, living together, out together, being together, allowed to be together, talk, do whatever they wanted, plan.
Yeah, they were.
For 3.5 months until October 29th, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Through all that whole time, those two led you to believe that Kevin was what they call a hero.
Yes.
And everything was on the up and up, didn't they?
Yes.
And Rachel, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Okay? And if you need to stop, because I understand I would be emotional. But then Kate came and told the world in relation to getting a plea bargain, which you've heard cut her time at least in half. That
Yes.
she did cold-bloodedly lure Matt to what she hoped would be his murder that night, right?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
It's just betrayal. It's confusing.
Given what just happened before lunch, do you feel betrayed in that manner too?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Feel betrayed about what just happened in court before lunch too?
Yeah, I didn't feel prepared for that.
Well, especially in relation to that ambush, I'm going to unpack a little bit and give you a little bit of time to talk about who you are.
Okay. Yes.
Tell me, let's put it in context of the middle of 2024, middle of that year. In other words, leading up to when this terrible event happened.
Okay.
Describe what your life is like.
It was summer, so I'm a stay-at-home mom to 2 children, and my husband works full-time. So really, summer of 2024, it's all parks and museums, outside playtime, bed, bath routines, just standard stay-at-home mom stuff, trying to keep the kids busy and happy.
Not much kid.
Ooh, okay, so one of these things, if you're just joining us, one of these things that really tipped off police and made them believe they have a murder plot is that there was a knife found in Matthew Restelli's hand, but it was not in his dominant hand. Okay, so he was left-handed. The knife was placed in his right hand, or found in his right hand, presumably placed according to police. So that was one of the things that set them off about this not being a self-defense situation, that this might have been a setup situation. Let's bring in retired investigator and attorney and lawmaker Tommy Pope. All right, Tommy, what do you think? How key is that crime scene going to be in this case for the jury?
I think it's going to be critical, and probably it was more critical in breaking the case than maybe in actually presenting the case. In other words, now that you have the wife who will be vulnerable to cross because of receiving a plea, but I assume she's going to flesh out the story in regards to her brother, in regards to her mother. But I will say that is good investigating work. It'd be interesting to know at what point law enforcement, who arguably knew none of the players, makes a left-handed determination as far as the deceased victim. And so that was pretty astute work. That, that one little piece of the thread that left. And as your viewers know, sometimes it can be the simplest of things, a door unlocked, a window left ajar, different things that just don't add up, the angle of a bullet. And so I think it was good police work, and it led to what I think will be a stronger case because of the wife testifying.
Yeah, really great analysis. Tommy Pope, thank you so much. Stay safe and warm in South Carolina where you are. Friends at home, hope you're staying safe and warm as well. Wherever you're watching from, go get some more coffee or tea. We got a lot more Court TV Live for you, including more unaired footage from the defendant's sister in the family murder plot trial in Utah. So great to have you with us on this Monday morning. Welcome to our second hour of Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We are in Utah this morning. Got some brand new unaired footage to show you in the plot that some are saying is like the Adelson case in Florida. Except this one's happening in Utah. The defendant's name is Kevin Ellis. He is a defendant, so is his mother, so is one of his sisters, accused in a plot to kill his brother-in-law. He says, though, he shot him in self-defense. We got some unaired footage from a sister who is not part of the plot that's in question. Let's go back in together now.
Talk about him.
Oh, talk about them. I've got 2 children. My daughter, Memphis, she is soon to be 5. And I have a son, Apollo, and he will be 3 at the end of February. They're amazing. They're the light of my world. And I'm very blessed to be able to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of them. And my husband works hard so that I can do that.
What'd your husband do?
He works for Amazon in like a managerial position, and he also we are partial owners of a family lawn care business in Hiram, Utah, as well as a beef raising and butchering family business in Hiram as well.
What sorts of, is family important to you?
Oh, very, yes.
Now, we've been talking about your family, but certainly up and at least until July of, and certainly June of 2025, when Kate revealed herself to be a murderer.
Yes.
At least up until that time was your own sibling family, this family that's on the family tree important?
Yes, very much so.
Lots of communication.
Oh yeah, no, we're talking in some way or another every few days.
Now, we heard some testimony that wasn't really necessarily equal. In other words, a little less with Kevin in some ways, more with Carolyn and maybe your mom. Right?
It was easier to have common ground with Terrelyn and Katie, which really blossomed when I became a mom. With Kevin, we still had talks. We talked about his love for pool, and he was the best uncle.
That's what I was going to ask about. Kevin didn't have any kids, right?
No, and I never thought he really would, but I didn't expect him to be. I didn't think he really liked kids that much until I watched him with mine, and he was amazing.
How did you interact?
Kevin would sit and play with them with toys on the ground, or play games with them. He would take them outside to go play. He, at Disneyland, was very attentive with them, helped. Like, if I were to ask him to help take care of them, he wouldn't bat an eye to do it. And I believe he actually was there with my husband to help watch my daughter while I was having my son in the hospital across the street.
You see him interact with Kate's kids?
No.
For instance, at Disneyland and stuff?
I'm sure he did, but I don't really, not the same.
I've seen some videos and things, and the reason I'm asking is I have to confess, when I see a lot of kids, I'm not sure whose they are.
Yeah.
And I wish, I probably should have been better at that. I'll bet Marissa knows. And that's just why I asked. I don't know exactly who's who in the videos. Things been a little different since the shooting and the aftermath of arrests and things like that.
Of course, yes.
What's going on now?
I'm sorry?
What's going on now? What does life look like? Who lives with you? What do you do? Who do you take care of?
So my mom's lease ended. Excuse me. And Jacob, so originally it was obviously Kate, Kevin, my mom, their kids, or Kate's children. Rory was also there. Jacob was able to find an apartment local to American Fork. Rory didn't have anywhere to go, but she was enrolled in phlebotomy school, and so she stayed with him for a few months and completed her phlebotomy school due to its proximity to his house, and then she came and lived with me, and she's been with me since.
Challenging to have another family member to take care of?
Yeah, she's pretty independent, but it's she's got to pick up on like household chores that she's not familiar with doing, and came with 2 cats, so.
But you welcomed her in, and you're adjusting.
Yes, it's been really fun. We've been able to develop an adult relationship together that we probably wouldn't otherwise have had the chance to do. So.
A little bit back to Kevin. You mentioned pool. It's been talked about with some other witnesses about how skilled and what a big part of billiards pool was in his life. Isn't it? It's fair to say that life is up all night and sleep all day.
Yeah, I would assume that's pretty on par.
Was a lot of the times if you were swinging by the house or something, if it's during the day, Kevin's in his room, sleeping it off?
Yes, yeah. I feel like he would be up in his room, and then he would come down after he found out we were over. He wasn't often just downstairs hanging out in the morning.
I might just get something accomplished while I'm thinking of it, given my absent-mindedness to you. Yeah. We're gonna put up on the screen real quick with you a picture. See if you recognize it. You see it?
Not yet. It's still black.
Okay. Well, a fast one on everybody.
Just for the witness.
Do you see it now?
No, the screen is still black.
Oh. I would see it. Now you see it.
Yes, I do.
I'm going to call this Defendant 8. What is it?
It's a picture of Kevin at Disneyland.
Move for admission of Defendant 8.
Any objection?
No objection.
So better, thank you.
And then, just so fairness to the jury, can we publish it, please?
Yes.
And again, I'm sort of checking a box here because this has been shown when I first had the chance to speak to the jury at the start of the trial. How many times did you go to Disneyland where Kevin also went?
It might have been, I mean, back when I was younger, I'm sure out of memory, but I really think it was that once, maybe one other time, but I think it was just that one time.
And when we're talking about that time, we do know in the course of discussions about this case that there's a trip to Disneyland that happens in early 2024. I think it's February, right?
Yes, early February 2024.
And there had been all this discussion about the fact that AirTags that are relevant to this case were purchased and used in connection with that trip, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, we can take that down. Thank you. You described Kevin as, how he was with your children, and was Kevin somebody that, as far as what you observed and you felt, was the person who tried to be available to the family?
Can you repeat that?
Was Kevin someone who tried to be available to the family, even though he wasn't a guy who had kids and didn't sound like fit into the mold exactly?
Yes, I would say so.
Now, Kevin, at the time of mid-2024, and in particular, June and July, that informs this case and what this case is about and when these events happened, he's living, as you said, with your mother.
Yes, that's correct.
Kevin's personality a little bit, I want to unpack a little bit with you, and I kind of focus on that time especially. Now, you had indicated that in direct examination that you've been part of these proceedings, right?
Yes.
And you've also viewed things that have happened in the proceedings of this case.
Yes.
Right? And that includes seeing some of the things that happened in the course of this very trial.
Yes, that's correct.
You got to see your sister Kate
Yes.
describe a chilling account of events where she was involved in murder, right?
Yes.
And in telling that, and in the telling of that version, she had plenty of opportunity and did describe your mom's involvement.
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
That part is also very confusing and something that I'm still trying to process.
And
Oh, you feel so bad for her, don't you? Being caught in the middle of this. What must that be like? Let's take a moment and remember, victims on a criminal case can often be in the defendant's own family. depending upon the defendant's conduct, they can not only victimize someone else who's listed as the primary victim on an indictment, but they can victimize their own family members just by putting them through what we're seeing this poor sister be put through. Let's talk about that. Let's bring in law enforcement expert and trial consultant, our friend Sunny Slaughter. Sunny, good morning to you. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on this, please.
Good morning, Julie. I do. You know, we talk about direct victims, and I've been using this terminology for years, direct victims and indirect victims. And this young lady is an indirect victim, as you described earlier, of a criminal case that she had no idea was ongoing. And she's very isolated and insulated in this because it involves her mother and her brother-in-law. So these are very close connections that have now been frayed in a way that is hard to repair and hard to comprehend when you think about victimization and the damage that will go on through the threads of these individuals' entire lives. They are forever changed. And no one wants to be a witness to violence, but no one wants to be a witness to the long-term impact that this is going to have, having to testify against your brother, your mother, and what happened to your brother-in-law. As she said, she's devastated. And we should all think about that when we think about the consequences of people's actions that last long beyond what we see right now.
So true, Sunny, so true. Innocent people like Rachel Jorgensen victimized for a lifetime. As you said, this isn't just today in the trial in the courtroom. No, this is for the rest of her life. And if she has, her own family someday and needs to explain that to, her children or her grandchildren, the fracturing that went on that was through no fault of her own, it's really, really terrible. Sunny, so glad you're here. Stand by, please. We're going to hit our first break of the hour. When we come back, we got more of the cross-examination, unaired footage for you all this hour as we get ready for court to start up at 11 a.m. Eastern.
What are you reporting?
Fire. The tragic murder of Keith Canero and his entire family.
The defendant repeatedly shot and killed his brother and then moved to murder the rest of the family inside the home.
Their sprawling mansion set on fire.
Paul and Keith were not only brothers but business partners.
This one is the most brutal case that I've seen in my experience here.
The Mansion Murders Trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
We're in Utah, quite a messed up trial situation. We've got 3 family members indicted, one of them going to trial now by himself. Sister testified against him already. Mom's trial's coming up, and we got another sister who had nothing to do with anything in question being cross-examined. Let's go back in now to the family murder plot case.
Sorry, and I'm going to do my best to minimize these topics.
It's okay.
And I don't want to be unfair in bringing them up because a lot of the answers, of course, would be obvious.
Okay.
Well, it'd be obvious for a person like you.
Okay.
Once this all came out and you learned all of this, again, did you feel betrayed by your mother?
Yes.
You heard the testimony about Kate saying that your mom actually, as part of this whole thing, thought she could use Kevin's mental issues, emotional issues, and things in order to get him to do something, right?
Yes.
Or, in fact, in order to trick him to do something, right?
Yes.
Did you see that dynamic? And let me back up. Let me just set some more framework. At the time, Kevin's kind of living a deadbeat existence at the house, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't think that he was employed, and so he was just going out and playing pool in the evenings and coming back and having a really chill daytime. So yeah, I feel like he wasn't contributing very much to the household.
And I don't want to make you dump on your brother or anything, but the reality of the situation there is your mom took care of him, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you know that, for instance, she even would be the one who would give him cash for his pool tournaments and stuff?
Yes, I did know that.
Take him to sushi?
Yes.
You hear Kate describe what apparently is the state's theory, or at least in her claims, that your mom took Kevin to sushi within hours of Matt coming over to lay the final plans to involve Kevin in murdering Matt. And that it didn't change his demeanor at all. He seemed happy.
Yes, I did hear her testify to that.
Would that surprise you, given everything you know about your brother? That he would be happy after learning that he was going to be part of a murder plot?
Yes, that would be shocking.
You also learned through the course of the events of the case, and as information spilled out and all through this process, that Kevin apparently used a bunch of cocaine the night of the shooting, prior to it anyway.
Yes, I did learn that.
Did that surprise you?
Yes, I was surprised by that.
Now, granted, you're not part of his everyday life or anything, but is there anything that you had seen in Kevin's behavior, in his life, at least in the, say, month or two prior to this event, that would have suggested to you in any way that Kevin was engaged in cocaine use?
No, I never had any suspicions of that. I knew he drank alcohol, but I'd seen him pretty frequently leading up to the event since I would go over there once a week, and I was completely shocked hearing that, or reading it, I guess. I think I found out on reading news articles.
Originally?
Yes,
but,
originally.
I mean, you've seen court proceedings,
Yes.
You saw these proceedings, right?
Yes.
And I mean, just even today, you were present when in toxicology talked about how people act when they're high on cocaine, right?
I can't remember if I was actually present for that part or not, but yes.
All right.
But yes, I do know that it's been common knowledge and discussed. And
Okay. I didn't know if you were there for that. I'm sorry about that. And I suppose everybody has varying ability to have life experiences that make them feel like they know.
Excuse me.
What cocaine users look like, but to whatever extent you feel like you know that, you never felt like you saw it.
No.
Signs of that. I want to, while we're on that topic, and given what you've been able to see, process about this case, learn about it in the role that the government has invited you to play in it over these months, it became known, officially known, something about your mother, right?
Yes.
That throughout this time, your mother was involved in the sex trade.
Yes.
In this what?
Sex trade. That having a licensed massage therapy business was something she truly had. She had a license, right?
Yeah, as far as I knew, she was the licensed massage therapist.
But in fact, at least some, if not the bulk of what she did, went beyond just massage, and she engaged in sexual activity with quote-unquote clients, right?
Yes.
It's also been learned that, well, that was never something that was made formally known to you and your family. Is that true?
Correct. Like, I had suspicions growing up, but never addressed them to her and never sought to seek out if that was true officially.
And it's also become knowledge, and you know that your mother had what she called a studio, right?
Yes.
And that now we know that that's where those things occurred.
Yeah, it's my understanding that it was actually an apartment where she would continue that work.
Did she call the studio?
Yes, that was referred to as her studio.
So during these times and these months, individuals in that world, if you were involved frequently with your mother. You've learned that, right?
Yes.
And you've learned that your mother had run-ins with the law and criminal convictions and arrests and things like that, right?
Yes.
Did you know about that?
I knew of a few small things here and there. I know that she had, I believe, some time in jail when I was younger for theft, but I don't feel like I found out much about that until I was much older. But I knew she did have some sort of history with, I don't know how you want to word it, but yeah, she did have a history of breaking the law.
Having arrests, convictions, jail time, things like that. Now, some of that, when you learned about it, you learned it happened back in California, right?
Yes.
Did you know about her criminal justice system arrests and cases here in Utah?
No.
Again, I kind of think I said I wouldn't do this as much as I hoped I didn't need to with you. But knowing what you know now, do you feel like your mom lived a double life?
Yeah.
That's fine, you've answered. I don't want to put you through anymore.
Okay.
Let's save that. I don't want to do that now. I'm going to her. I don't want to do that. Well, I've just done that to her. Just want to walk through some of these events that have to do with some of the things that you were actually expecting to be presenting evidence on today, and the things leading up to Kate taking off and running away, and things leading up to the night of the shooting. Okay?
Yes.
And I hope this will be easier on you. This is the stuff you were allowed to practice for.
Yes.
To an extent. As things fell apart between Matt and Kate, it became known even before Kate ran away on the 20th to all you sisters and stuff that she was going to try to break from this marriage, right?
Yeah, I didn't know exactly when, but I just knew it was a matter of time before they would end up separating.
So when we saw and you were walked through...
Oh, we got a little bombshell here, didn't we? With her dropping the bomb through this cross that Mom was involved in the sex trade business, apparently owned a massage parlor, did have a license to work as a masseuse, but as defense counsel drew out, much of the work being done there was illegal type work in the sex trade. Wow, this is big stuff. This counsel for Mr. Ellis is doing a great job because he's making mom look really, really, really bad. My guess is that they're going to do some more finger pointing at mom as this case rolls on. So we'll hit pause right here. You won't miss a minute. We'll be right back with more Court TV.
That's did not make me feel good. It's scary and
Take your time.
That's intimidating.
Did you think you were assisting your mom and your sister in luring someone to their death?
No.
Oh, this sweet, innocent woman has been a victim of the circumstances she's been put in because her brother, her sister, and her mother are all indicted in the family plot murder case in Utah. So her brother's the one on trial. Mom is set to go to trial later. Sister pleaded out, turned state's evidence. Brother's being accused of conspiring with mother and a different sister to murder that sister's brother-in-law, or that sister's husband, excuse me, Matthew Restelli. So this defendant, Kevin Ellis, is saying that it wasn't a murder plot at all, that it was a self-defense situation. So why this innocent sister has to be brought in is because of what she may know that may help substantiate this plot to kill that brother-in-law to her. So let's go back in now where we left off. We're on the cross.
So when we saw and you were walked through some of these communications and phone call timings and stuff like about setting up and getting to know she had a storage unit and was gonna maybe leave and come to Utah. Some of those communications happened before the 20th of June. Prosecutors pointed that out, right?
Yeah, I don't recall exactly, but it's fair to say that we definitely had, we definitely had conversations prior.
I mean, you think when we went through them, some of them, for instance, were on the 16th of June, stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, isn't it true that what you sisters were talking about and texting about were knowing that was going to happen and, quite frankly, help her if she wanted to do that, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Your understanding that you had been left with about her marriages largely came from her.
Yes.
You certainly didn't talk to Matt about it.
No, I did not.
And so she led you to believe, and she described to you this awful existence where she hated her life and Matt was really mean and awful to her and things like that, right?
Yes.
Now, you did testify to knowing some features about their relationship and some features about Matt that was part of that dynamic, right?
Yes.
For instance, that they'd fight.
Yes.
That they would fight in front of the children.
Yes, they would.
That it was unhealthy and toxic. And I'm guessing that Kate's version to you was probably pretty one-sided?
Yeah.
And you would expect so?
Yes.
But she's certainly laying it on thick when she's communicating with you all and how she wants to be done with it.
Yes.
And get physically away from California over the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not like you learn all of a sudden on the 20th and then we would have communications. You knew a little bit leading up to the 20th.
Yes.
You just didn't know exactly when.
No, I knew that there was a very loose plan, and then, yes, we just saw it come together. And
did you know, I mean, at the time that what we know now, that Tara Lynn, since she's in California, really helped with the logistics?
Yes, I don't remember seeing a lot of the logistics together, but I had also kind of assumed she was getting help from Tara, knowing that they were so close and so local to each other.
So is it true that while you knew this was in the breach, in the offing, so to speak. How it all transpired with her taking the truck and the kids meeting Tara, getting the stuff out of the storage, and heading to Utah. You didn't know that was going to be the day and the time?
No, I didn't know until, I actually don't know exactly when I was told Kate was coming out, but yeah.
And maybe the way you're talking, the way you guys text each other, all that stuff, isn't it fair to say that you probably knew that day as it was transpiring?
Yes, we were communicating and getting Snapchats of updates of things getting loaded, or look how empty the storage unit's getting. I remember getting a Snapchat of it being empty at one point, I think.
So you guys are back and forth. I mean, this is kind of... I don't know how this would be taken. I'm old, and I don't relate. But reality communications and sort of real-time enacting of everyone's lives on social media and on the text and stuff is something I certainly absolutely don't understand. But it seems to be a real part of our society now. Is that kind of what it was like? Is everybody keeping each other up to it and commenting on it?
Yeah, we had a family Snapchat group that had everybody, like my immediate family to my aunt, my cousins, so my aunt's children. Matt was included, Tara Lynn's husband. So you could look at the Snapchat and kind of get a little catch-all of what's going on with everybody to get a quick brief.
And I guess while you guys are commenting on that, unlike the Real Housewives of some state or other, you don't really know that it's all going to become public today and shown to a jury.
No, you don't expect that.
And you're commenting to each other. You just sort of, fair to say it's sister to sister, pretty gossipy, is that fair to say?
Yes, I feel like that's fair. You're saying stuff in confidence, thinking you've got privacy.
My friends, I have to tell you, I am up for any line of questioning that involves the Real Housewives. Just saying, love the shows. All right, let's get down to business with what this witness is talking about. Let's bring in Sunny Slaughter, our law enforcement guest analyst. Sunny, how about you? First question. You love the Housewives, right? Yeah, no, I'm kidding. You're laughing.
Oh, my God.
You're so cute. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
No.
Yeah, my son was the roommate with one of the women of medicine housewives. So when he was at Howard, one of their sons were. So that is my background with the housewives. But
no, that's very cute. You have to tell your son it came up on the show today. So the bombshell, I want to talk to you about, Sunny, just backing the truck up a little bit. Mom. So Mom here, who we know is indicted, going to trial, said to be part of this plot, apparently was involved in the sex trade business too with her massage parlor. Well, that was some juicy stuff coming out. What did you think when you heard that?
So initially I was like, okay, she's on the stand. She's very emotional. And I'm sure the team behind the scenes were like, calm down, Sunny. Because I was like, okay, what is this questioning for? Get her off the witness stand. And I'm the person that usually works for the defense. And then I realized, oh, okay. All right, so now it kind of makes sense. Mom was a gangster, literally. Mom had a lot going on. She was doing a lot behind the scenes. And she is a master manipulator, i.e., the old girl that just got, convicted, who gasped in court, that other person, Dan Markel's master manipulator mom. So this all now makes sense. Let me get to the point. This all now makes sense. And this plot was very strategic, methodical, and she was okay and has been okay reeling in family members to end the life of an individual, and particularly how she reeled in her own daughter, this young lady on the witness stand who had no idea. Yes, she understood that her mom had some criminal history in her background, but I don't think she ever believed that her mother would rope her in unknowingly into a murder plot, and now she's on the witness stand having to to testify. These are critical this is critical information. It's now going to make sense, and it will now culminate into what the trial looks like for Mom.
Yes, Sunny Slaughter, I'm making an early call that you had the line of the day this morning here on Court TV Live, that Mom was a gangster. Hit us up on social media. Let us know if you agree with Sunny's hot take. More coming up straight ahead here on Court TV Live as we continue with the family murder plot trial in Utah.
Did an affair with the family's au pair lead to double murder?
He was there, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial continues Tuesday morning on Court TV.
Back to Utah we go with the family murder plot trial underway. We've got an innocent sister on the stand, so not the sister who pleaded and testified against her defendant brother. This is another sister, and it is heartbreaking. Let's go back in.
Now, it's established, and I certainly don't belabor it and apologize to anybody in the room who thinks I am, but when she gets out here, you heard her testimony, Kate's testimony, so let me just draw your attention instead of having to take too much time on it. You heard Kate herself say there began to develop this atmosphere that she and her mom had created of fear in everybody, or at least anticipation or uncertainty.
Yes, that's fair.
Is that how you were feeling?
Yes.
Is that how you observed you think your sister Tara Lynn was feeling?
Yes.
Your brother Tim?
Yes.
Maybe other people who were around, but maybe lesser so, like Rory and Jacob. I mean, no one's ever interviewed them, so.
Yes.
Okay. Certainly the sister set. Now, as you sit here now, you know you were being fooled by your mom and fooled by Kate during that time, right?
Yes.
As this atmosphere is being developed by Kate, as she acknowledged, you know things, and things are coming up and being referenced about that Matt is a gun owner, right?
Yes.
Now, you don't know of any time or that it was told to you or you believe that Matt had ever used a gun to hurt another person, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
You had actually, I think, at some point in your past, a conversation with him about guns?
Yes, I did.
Describe that real quick.
I don't recall the reason for my visitation in California, but we were standing, it was just myself and Matt in their home, standing in their kitchen. And I remember Matt gesturing to underneath the kitchen sink and saying that, don't tell Kate, but I've got a gun under there. She'd be really mad if I knew, she'd be really upset if she knew. And yes, that was the end of that interaction.
And then there were these occasions, it's a rural area, certainly wouldn't be surprising, but to you, you might have a gun or more in a place in the nature they lived, right?
Yeah, the fact that he owned guns did not surprise me given where they're at, and I know there's wildlife and just your ability to protect your property, yes.
You knew the stories that he'd actually had to use it. I mean, I think he got viciously attacked by a shelter dog maybe, or whatever, a dog that they had, and he had to defend himself by using a gun, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did shoot a dog, yes.
And there was actually a story in the local paper in California about how he had to use this gun in connection with what might have been a cougar or a bobcat on their property. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that article, but I would believe that hearing that.
And I'm not here to say anything about gun owners because you're one, right?
Yes, I am.
It wasn't really covered in here, but in the evidence in these stacks of text messages that I've had and that I'm not probably confident going directly to, even around this time, and even in connection with this atmosphere of fear and uncertainty, you even brought up in text messages when you were asked, I think, hey, have you fired your .380 yet? Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
And that's your gun?
Yes, I've got a Ruger 380 security.
So, I mean, you weren't suggesting when you were communicating about Matt coming out and all this tension and all the worry that you guys are talking about that you would ever arm yourself or cause your gun to be allowed to be used to be introduced in that situation, would you?
No.
Have you repeatedly told the prosecutor that when they asked you the question? They've asked you about that gun, right?
I am trying to think.
Fair enough. Now I have transcripts, and I don't know if you've been able to use your transcripts before. So if you don't remember, it's not a fair answer, of course, for any witness from any question. So if your answers you don't remember,
Okay, I can't recall, but yeah.
And the reason I ask is because in these text messages that were developed where you're communicating back and forth, and it may not even be in it, but there's references sometimes to that .380.
Yes.
And you and your husband got that gun.
Yes, we did.
It was never talked about being utilized or ready or anything having to do with this July event, right?
I heavily considered getting a concealed carry permit, even though Utah law doesn't require it, for my personal education and training, because I was scared. So there are Google searches and purchases I made that ended up returning in regards to concealed carrying the gun, but it never ended up leaving the front door of my house.
Did you want a gun for personal safety?
Yes, the gun was purchased.
All right, we're going to pause it right here. More on-air footage for you straight ahead, plus live court. The jury expected to be back in just about 10 minutes or so. Here's a live look at the courtroom as we get ready for more of the family murder plot trial.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rowlands, good to be with you on this Monday morning. Glad to kick off another busy week here. A lot of courthouses and courtrooms closed because of the weather, but not all of them. And that's good, because now we've got something today. In Utah, it's day 5 of this great trial, the family plot murder trial. The defendant here is Kevin Ellis. He's just one of a few, though. He's the first among his family to face charges, including murder and conspiracy, connected to the shooting of his brother-in-law, a guy by the name of Matt Restelli. Ellis's sister, Catherine Restelli, who is also Matt's wife, along with their mother, Tracey Grist, they've all been charged in Matt's death. Now, Catherine Restelli, she took a plea and even testified against her brother earlier in the trial. She's likely going to testify against her mother as well. The prosecution claims that Grist helped her daughter lure her husband from California to Utah, where Kevin Ellis then shot him 7 times. Ellis refutes those claims, arguing that he shot Restelli in self-defense. He's sticking to the original story. Before we go into the courtroom, they're just starting to gather. The jury is showing up for service, so we've got a little bit of time here. Let's get a background around the case, and for that, we'll turn to Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson.
Matt was executed by the very people who were supposed to be his family. His wife, Catherine, his mother-in-law, Tracey Grist, and his brother-in-law, Kevin Ellis.
Prosecutors say Matthew Restelli was shot to death after his estranged wife lured him to Utah from California under the ruse of reconciliation. Catherine Restelli and her family are accused of coming up with a plan to ambush Matthew in his mother-in-law's home and make it look like they killed him in self-defense. Catherine's brother, Kevin Ellis, is accused of pulling the trigger.
Kevin's part of the conspiracy because Kevin was the shooter. There's a conspiracy. As long as you believe that either Catherine or Tracey conspired, they had any involvement in trying to get Matthew Restelli to come to Utah for him to be shot by Kevin.
According to prosecutors, Kevin Ellis shot Matthew on July 12, 2024, as he entered the home of Ellis's mother, Tracey Grist. Grist and Ellis then allegedly placed a knife in Matthew's right hand, even though Matthew is left-handed.
I noticed that the blade of the knife was facing towards him rather than away from him. If the defendant was claiming self-defense, I would believe that Mr. Restelli would have the knife in a different position than he did.
Prosecutors also say digital evidence shows Tracey Grist searched for information about recent shootings and Utah's gun laws. Ellis and Grist are each charged with first-degree murder and criminal conspiracy. They deny the charges. Catherine Restelli pleaded guilty to conspiring with her family to kill her husband.
I'm so very deeply sorry for the pain that I've caused. I understand that my apology will never be enough to heal the hurt that Matt's death has caused and continues to cause. He didn't deserve it.
It wasn't random. It was inevitable. It was Catherine, Tracey, and Kevin, a Black Widow's execution plan. It was just a normal day in the life of the Ellis family. It is their nature.
It's quite the case. They're gathering at the courthouse, so our team is in the courtroom. There's the seal, a live look inside the courtroom. As soon as they're up and running, we'll go in for testimony. While we wait, let's go back to the openings, because of course both sides tell us their case to some degree. So let's go start with the prosecution and listen to a bit of what was said day one.
On June 20th, 3 weeks before the shooting, Catherine traveled from California to Utah with her children, claiming it was a temporary break. She would soon learn that law would require a divorce in California and not Utah, and that she would not automatically get full custody of her children. Catherine and Tracey then worked together to lure Matthew to Utah under false pretenses. They told Matthew that if he drove to Utah, Catherine and the kids would return to California with him. Catherine also insisted that Matthew drive a specific truck, which had an Apple AirTag in it, that she had secretly placed before she left the state. This would allow and did allow her family members to track Matthew's location. On July 12th, as Matthew drove from Southern California to Utah, Catherine repeatedly told him that he needed to come in and that he should enter Tracey's home without knocking. What she didn't tell Matthew is that Kevin was waiting inside the door. When Matthew entered, Kevin shot him within seconds. Kevin and Tracey then delayed the call to 911, planted a knife in Matthew's hand, and portrayed Matthew as having been an armed intruder to both 911 and to the police who arrived on scene. A small but critical error was made that ultimately led to a much larger investigation and the unraveling of this plan or conspiracy. As I already noted, that knife had been placed backwards in Matt's right hand when he was left-handed. Kate had grown unhappy with the marriage. She viewed it as loveless, and she sought out other relationships, which became a point of contention between her and Matt. In January 2024, Kate had confided to her mother that she wanted out of the marriage. Here's one of the messages she sent. She says, "We've been fighting so much. I want out." And by May, text messages between Kate and Tracey reflected her frustration and unhappiness. She told her mom, "I hate my life, Mom." She said, "I hate that I have kids with Matt." She says, "This is so bad right now. I hate him so much." Text messages will show that members of the Grist family repeatedly talked about him and included comments about harming him. On June 6th, there was a message by Tracey to one of the other daughters, Rachel, where she said, "Matt made it so I want to kill him. He straight up lied. I'm gonna kill him."
The entire case that the government must prove is about what Kevin knew. And it doesn't have to be accurate. And you're going to see it probably wasn't. He was given all sorts of information this evidence is going to show. It would be up here that probably wasn't accurate. In fact, tragically, because his sister and his mother, as co-conspirators, there definitely was a conspiracy, the evidence will show. Fed it to everybody, and especially when they end up pulling their hero, Kevin Ellis. Some things that they saw and observed in their lives that made them concerned about them. You'll hear them describe him as erratic. He had a serious alcohol problem. Whether or not that was in play when he walked through the door that night is not the question. It's what Kevin thought, what Kevin knew, what information Kevin had been given. But his communications, yeah, they're all about Matt. When is he coming? He's scary. Should there be protection? Does Kate need to be protected? This is all the information that the evidence will directly or circumstantially show. I think you're going to find that, unfortunately, he shot, therefore he conspired, and he conspired, therefore he didn't have self-defense. Creates a problem in this case for no attempt to investigate the real possibility Kevin was led into this, duped into this, set up for this in the plan that Tracey had with his sister Kate.
All right, let's bring in our guest for the hour, domestic violence expert, former law enforcement officer Claudia King. Good morning. Hope you're faring well with the storm. This is a case where the defense is very nuanced here. They're saying, oh, well, my guy was duped as well by this woman who pulled off this whole caper. She just, she's lying. What's your take on it? And also, love to get your feeling about the initial response from a law enforcement perspective. To what extent does your radar go up analyzing when someone claims, oh, he was an intruder, he's an intruder?
Yeah, good morning, Ted. Well, first off, I think the defense is going kind of the only way they can at this point. This is really all they've got, because apparently, you know, as we are all sort of calling them, the Utah Adelsons, I believe they're actually evidence that they had done a lot of searches on the Adelson case. And so I'm guessing that they saw what Charlie tried didn't work. So they're going in a different direction of him saying, well, I was duped as well. So, you know, my mom and sister, they're the evil ones, and I'm the other innocent bystander here. As far as the law enforcement response, you know, they're gonna look at everything in that moment as a crime. You know, they're going to start with a crime and then back off from there, especially since they're going to soon find out who the victim was, that the victim was known to the family. So they're going to start looking at that relationship. Was it a contentious relationship? On whose side was it contentious? You know, that's what led them to all of these text messages amongst the family to make them believe that there was a conspiracy. You know, you want to interview everyone separately and get their stories to see, does all of this line up? Are they telling us the same story? And then the evidence is key, as the physical evidence. So the knife was a big clue here that there was a problem. So that was kind of alerted the law enforcement that there might be an issue once they determined the victim was left-handed, but the knife was found in or near his right hand. So that's going to raise flags pretty quickly to make them dig deeper.
Yeah. And I mean, the idea that they Googled the Adelsons and took some sort of knowledge from that and went ahead with it is insane. People just really don't get the difficulties of getting away with murder, especially here. You see what happened to that family, and now you're going to replicate it in Utah, if indeed that was going through their mind. What's the bottom line here for this? because this is a self-defense, I was bamboozled defense, he almost has to take the stand, does he not, in this case?
I think he does, because he's got to tell his story. If this is what he's claiming, that I was bamboozled by everybody, he's got to get up there and tell the jury that and give his side of the story. And I just don't know that it's going to work. We haven't really heard much from him, but based on what everybody else has said so far in his family, it just seems like he and his sister and his mom were very tight-knit. It's going to be hard to convince the jury that he was tricked as well as the victim.
Yeah. All right, well, there you see the seal. Let's get a break here as everybody assembles for another day in court as we kick off another busy week at Court TV. Stay with us. Back after this.
Did an affair lead to double murder?
The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has secured an indictment against Brandon Banfield for the murder of his wife, Christine, and the murder of Mr. Ryan.
Prosecutors allege the defendant planned to run away with the family's au pair. So he killed his wife and another man.
He was saying, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage continues Tuesday morning on Court TV.
You're gonna love it.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We'll head back to Utah in just a minute. But first, here is a quick look at some of the other cases we're tracking today. Court TV in Virginia. Court is dark today and tomorrow, we're just finding out, in the Au Pair Affair murder trial for defendant Brandon Banfield. Banfield says he wants to testify in his own defense. He's got 2 extra days to mull that over. They'll be back at it Wednesday, and we will be there to watch. The Mansion murders trial is also dark today in New Jersey. Paul Canaro, accused of killing his brother and family and setting the house on fire. And then the other one is the one that is up and running, and that is in Utah. Kevin Ellis. He's accused of killing his brother-in-law in this plot involving his sister and his mother. His sister's turned on him. We're still waiting for testimony to get underway. While we wait, let's go back into the courtroom. A little bit of testimony that we were watching last hour from last week, and we're going to pick it up right where we left off. This is Ellis's sister, Rachel Jorgensen.
Did you want a gun for personal safety?
Yes, the gun was purchased in February of 2024 after the Disneyland trip. It was not in anticipation of Matt's coming out.
I mean, to do with Matt at all?
No. No.
Again, about Matt, the only point here is that it was known in your family that he had guns.
Yes.
So that this person, in coming to a situation where Tim has described and you've described, was someone who could have one.
Yes.
And, also want to ask you about some of the other features again, or go over that you knew that might be relevant to some of what you've described as your concerns.
Yes.
And this is not meant as, to demean Matt in any way at all, but it was well known that Matt had a drinking problem, right?
Yes.
You'd had observed that yourself?
Yes.
Is it well known around the family that was the case?
Yes.
And when excessive drinking occurred, I mean, this almost sounds like a platitude, would that make you more concerned about about his potential behavior? Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Did you observe it affect his behavior?
Yes.
Did you observe some of these blow-ups between he and Kate? And again, this might just seem obvious. Be worse if he was heavily drinking?
Yes.
Now, you don't know, as he's coming to Utah on the 12th, you don't know whether he's been drinking.
No, I don't.
Let me go back to Kevin a little bit, because, I mean, you've even been shown an exhibit that has very little historical text communication between you and Kevin.
Yes, that's correct.
And, that's the case with the evidence in this case in terms of communications, whether you may or may not know it. I only bring that up with you because you've talked about keeping abreast of the evidence in this case and being part of hearings, being talked to at will by the prosecutors. Though there's not these text communications and everything going on, Kevin's in the mix, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, Kevin's not a sister.
Correct.
He's not a guy who's in there texting back and forth, in group texts about all this stuff. But you guys are talking about it, communicating about it, and he's living in a house with two of those folks, Tracey and Kate, right?
Yes.
And as you said, even during this period of time from June 20th to July 12th, you would have had occasion to be in and about Kevin and around Kevin, communicating with Kevin.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Even this period from when Kate leaves on the June 20th to the shooting on the 12th of July, that's a period of time where you would have some communication with him, right?
Yeah. Yes.
He'd have been around when things were talked about, right?
Yes, he very well could be.
And he's in the same house as Kate and your mom.
Yes.
Who you now know masterminded what happened to Matt, right?
Yes.
Now, you described being scared, being worried, etc., as you learned that Matt's coming on over, right?
Yes.
One of the communications that was brought to your attention involved you saying, I think apparently Kate talked him into coming. Do you remember that reference?
Yes.
When it was becoming, did you know about the divorce lawyer and the attempts to stall and all that?
I knew of the divorce lawyer at some point. I don't recall if I was told before or after, but I do know that there were conversations about trying to stall Matt's ability to get a rental car or have Kate obtain one. Yes.
So a confrontation between these two and what this had devolved to, you knew had become something that was inevitable.
Yes.
Even though there was stalling, you all had the feeling in your mind that it was inevitable, it was going to come together.
Yes.
Do you recall discussing, whether in phone calls or others, we've seen many phone calls with many minutes of them just in the evidence here, and just on that point, you also had personal communications. You were in each other's presence at times, you and Kate, your mom and such, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And Tim?
Yes.
If it was inevitable, is it fair to say that you guys hoped it would be on your turf instead of in some remote place in California?
Yes, that's fair to say.
So that if it had to happen, was it your hope and you believe sort of your group hope and desire that it would be here where you guys would be around in case something went bad?
Yes, it would have been nice to make sure we could be there to support and
Protect?
Sure. Yeah. Yes.
Make peace?
Yes.
Like Tim said?
Yes.
Or protect?
Yes.
Now, the prosecutors pointed out at the end of direct last time, is what was done, we all saw, but that you appeared to say that you're concerned, say that you're worried, and then make comments like LMAO, which is laughing my ass off, is that right?
Correct.
I figured out about 5 emojis, let alone all the acronyms in this world, but one of those, for instance, was in direct relation to Tara Lynn saying how on edge she was. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So did you mean by that you're laughing about how freaked out she is too?
Yes, I guess more like in solidarity, like we're both a little on edge, and we're just processing it together.
Did you think that it was funny that you were all afraid?
No.
In your heart and your feeling and in the feelings that you had there, did you think this was laughable?
No.
You have sister talk during this time, though? Back and forth.
Yes, yeah.
And then afterwards, we've seen the words about it, like to be on a fly on the wall.
Yes, that's correct.
That partly because a fly on a wall could see perhaps that nothing bad happened, everything went well, and you could be relieved?
Yes, that was the intent, to see nothing but a good outcome for everybody involved.
I'm not saying we've completely gotten to know you by any means, but did the Rachel who's on that witness stand right now wish to be a fly on the wall to see a gory murder happen?
No.
And these talks about you're texting your mom and your mom's probably asleep and all that stuff.
Yes.
Seem pretty lighthearted. I mean, is it fair to say that's because if you haven't heard about anything bad, your mom probably just went to sleep?
Yes, I just assumed that no news was good news, and if she was asleep, things were at least at a decent point.
Just a moment.
Sure, of course.
Give good news to you and everybody in here that I'm going to do less than more.
Okay.
And I just want to just finish on the topic.
Okay.
You've already told us about you and your feelings and whether you were genuinely afraid of what might happen, whether you were genuinely scared. As you observe the communications that we've seen here that might seem lighthearted or other calls you had with Tara Lynn leading up to the time that Matt was shot, that Tara Lynn seemed to be faking her concern?
No, I don't believe she was faking her concern.
Tim, when he thought, as he testified, that he may or may not be needed or wanted or valuable as yet another body there that could maybe yet make a difference, did he seem genuine?
Yes, he did seem genuine.
Especially after all you've gone through. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Redirect.
Okay, there's the other sister on the stand. That whole family, difficult spot, especially her, Rachel Jorgensen. Let's get a break. We're being told that the attorneys and the judge are in chambers, so the jury's there, ready to roll. They are discussing some legal matters, and as soon as that breaks up, we assume that we're moments away from day 5 of the case against Kevin Ellis. Stay with us.
Free.
The state alleges that Kevin Ellis, Tracey Grist, and Matthew Restelli conspired to murder Matt, who was Catherine's husband. In broad strokes, the state's allegation is that Catherine and Tracey worked together to lure Matt into driving to Utah and to entering Tracey's home where Kevin was waiting armed with a handgun. Almost immediately after Matthew arrived, Kevin shot and killed him. Matthew was unarmed. A knife was then planted in Matthew's hand to try and cover up the conspiracy and claim the shooting was in self-defense.
The state of Utah is set to call more family members in the case against Kevin Ellis. Ellis is accused of killing his brother-in-law in a plot involving his mother and his sister. Ellis's defense here says that this was indeed self-defense and that he didn't realize the entire picture. While we wait for court to resume, let's go back in and pick up the remainder of the testimony from Rachel Jorgensen. She is Kevin's sister. This is now Redirect.
Rachel, you're not on trial today, are you?
No, sir, I'm not.
Isn't it true that you were given immunity prior to a meeting with the state to prepare for your testimony today?
Yes, that's correct.
And all the exhibits used during testimony today were sent as part of documents sent to your attorney on January 16th, 2026?
Yes.
And all the exhibits admitted during your testimony were provided again this morning before you were called to testify to your attorney?
Yes.
And do you remember testifying earlier in a preliminary hearing?
Yes, I do remember testifying at Kevin's preliminary hearing, yes.
About December 18th, 2024, does that sound right?
Yes.
And do you remember if I asked you where the air tag came from? It was put in the truck?
Yes.
And what did you say?
I want to say, if my memory serves me correct, that I said that it was left in the truck.
Okay, but that wasn't accurate, was it?
That's correct. Yes.
And where did it get left? Who left it there?
Tara Lynn.
Jackson Foundation.
Much Laylow Foundation.
Do you know who left the air tag in the truck?
Yes.
Okay, who left it in the truck?
I'm sorry.
How does she know?
If I could show you State's Exhibit 138. If I could show that to the witness, Your Honor.
Yes. The witness, not the jury.
Okay, you have what's marked as State's Exhibit 138. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, these are text messages between myself and Tara Lynn.
And do you know what date that's from?
June 20th, 2024.
At what time?
The first message is marked at 8:23:32 a.m. on 6/2024.
Okay, and when you read these messages to yourself, do you remember who put the air tag in the truck and where it came from?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and were you part of that conversation?
Can you rephrase?
Like, State would move to admit State's Exhibit 138.
Any objection?
Can I see a copy?
I only have what's on.
There's some we can review it. It sounds like there's not a hard copy to review.
You have it on your computer, you can walk it over to me.
Yeah.
It's emailing it over.
All right, they end up going to a sidebar there. Claudia King watching along with us. What's your take on this witness and how the jury is going to factor her testimony in? She was given immunity, which has different reactions to different people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in this case, though, she is coming across as truthful. And even though she was given immunity, there's so much other testimony that's kind of backing up what she said. I wasn't really impressed with the defense and how they were trying to get her to cry and how terrible she felt and how scary it was to be accused of something. You know, I just thought that probably wouldn't play well with the jury, because we can't really make her the victim when the victim is the person who was shot and killed. So I think the defense didn't really do themselves any favors in their cross with her.
Yeah, what she does do too is really bring in the dysfunctionality of this family. I mean, these are some kooky people. Hanging out together and plotting with the air tags and this and that. And at the end of the day, the effect, I'm sure, is exactly what the state wants, and that is for jurors to say, oh, what are the odds that this defendant wasn't all in as part of this clan of kooks?
Exactly. He's like the Duke of the kooks, because mom is the queen. So yeah, I think it's just too hard to believe that he wasn't a part of all this. The whole family was involved. Yes, a couple of them got immunity. Catherine made a deal, but they were all involved. Let's be honest here. That's what the evidence is showing us. They picked the wrong people to emulate with the Adelsons. And I just think, you know, can't we just get divorced and go away? Like, why is that not an option anymore, Ted?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, man. Brendan Banfield, they're dark today and tomorrow, but I can't wait to hear his version of events when he takes the stand on Wednesday. Again, to your point, really? Force, not an option? You got to kill the person? Never works out. Let's get a break. When we come back, we hope that they're up and running. This is a very long in-chambers conference between the attorneys and the judge. Of course, we don't know what's going on in there, but we're hoping that it breaks up and we get you into that courtroom for live testimony right after this.
Did an affair lead to double murder?
The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has secured an indictment against Brendan Banfield for the murder of his wife, Christine, and the murder of Mr. Ryan.
Prosecutors allege the defendant planned to run away with the family's au pair. So he killed his wife and another man.
He was saying, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage continues Wednesday morning on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We are waiting for court to reconvene out in the state of Utah in the case against Kevin Ellis. The defense claims that the shooting was self-defense in this case, and we've been told that the attorneys and the judge have been in an extended conference in chambers. No word on what is going on, but as soon as they are back in open court and on the record, we will send you there for testimony today. Right now, we're listening to Rachel Jorgensen on the stand. This is from Friday. This is Kevin's sister. We've listened to the cross, and now after the sidebar, we'll pick up the rest of the redirect.
Do you know where the air tag came from?
Yes.
And you knew that Tara Lynn had the air tag before it went into Kate's truck, correct?
Yes.
And she talked to you about that, and you knew it was at Tara Lynn's house before she put it in Kate's truck, correct?
Yes.
She asked you to look at the location, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
So that would seem like a pretty big thing to remember.
Objection, legally omitted.
Your Honor.
I think it's a little bit leading. Why don't you rephrase it?
Okay. Does that seem like something that would be important to remember?
Yes, it does.
Especially where somebody was killed?
Yes.
And so why at the prelim did you say that it was left in the truck from a Disneyland trip?
about the last year and a half, I have had some issues with memory recall. And I do believe that I misspoke, but not with any intention of being dishonest.
And you didn't know your mom lived a double life, is what you said before, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't know she was planning a murder like this?
No, I did not.
You didn't know Kate was planning a murder like this?
No, I did not.
You didn't know that Kevin used drugs?
No, I did not.
Is it possible you were unaware of the darker side of Kevin?
Objection, is it possible it was a leading question?
Fair enough.
Strike it. And Rachel, you testified earlier today that you felt ambushed.
Yes.
But did I ask you anything this morning that didn't come from your own cell phone communications?
No, they all came from my devices.
And didn't I ask you to kind of explain what you were thinking or why you did each one of those?
Yes.
Given what you know now, how do you think your involvement looks?
I believe that when I'm not given the ability to help give context and explain, I would say that it does not shine a great light on me, given the circumstances.
You were talking to your mom.
Yes.
4 days before Matt, or before Kate even left,
Yes.
about shooting Matt.
Yes.
And you had a phone call with your mom for 32 minutes before that conversation.
Yes.
But you don't remember what that conversation's about.
No.
And you knew that you had a text involving your sister Katie, or you were on the phone with your sister Katie.
Your Honor, this is all legal. This is a state's witness.
Your Honor, I think she's a hostile witness at this point.
Objection,
What's your objection?
especially hearing that word from a jury.
I'm going to ask you to rephrase. I think you
Okay.
can rephrase it.
Okay, did you have a conversation with Kate the day of July 12th?
Yes.
And what did she say in that conversation?
She said that she talked Matt into coming out.
And so you were aware that Katie knew that, had basically got Matt to come out?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And you called Rory that day? Did you call Rory that day?
Yes, I did call her.
And what did you tell her?
I let her know that Matt was coming to Utah and that she was, she had an invitation to come to my house should she want to accept that, to come spend the night if she didn't want to be there while Matt was there.
Okay, so it could appear as though you're clearing the house, correct?
Yes, it could appear that way.
And you had a phone call with Tim,
Yes, I did.
and you told Tim not to come over. Is that correct?
I don't recall telling him that, but like I said before, I trust that if that's his memory recall, I do trust that it could have been me who said that.
Okay, and then when Matt was close, you texted, who did you text?
I texted my mom and Kevin,
And what did you say?
or keep an eye on Find My.
And why did you say it like that?
It was, I had looked at my Find My app, seen his location, and just immediately texted, just a quick text to both of them. That was how I texted it.
Okay, but you also texted Tim, didn't you?
When?
That night.
Could you expand on that, please?
Let me show you State's Exhibit. I'd like to show you what's marked as States 118. I don't know that you've seen this.
I do believe I have.
Do you recognize can you read for the jury, or can publish to the jury? What did you text Tim about Matt coming?
I said, Matt should be there in about 30 minutes. I have Rory here. I think she's got Kevin, Kate, and Jake there.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect, excuse me.
Rachel, prosecutor asked you if you're on trial. You said no, right?
Yes.
Does it feel like at this point you are?
Yeah.
May redirect from the stand. May this witness be excused from her subpoena, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You're free to go.
Thank you.